It is time for our co-main event of the evening. 8 rounds of middleweight boxing between Cork, Ireland's Gary "Spike" O'Sullivan and Ronald Montes of Barranquilla, Colombia. Montes wearing the blue trunks, O'Sullivan wearing the white trunks. O'Sullivan enters this fight with a record of 23 wins against 2 losses, 15 of his 23 wins coming by way of knockout. His 2 losses at the highest of levels in boxing, has been rebounding over the past year or so, and is on a winning streak. Montes 17-5 from Colombia. Most of his 17 wins have come against rather low-level opposition. His losses have come when he stepped up. We'll see how he fares tonight against O'Sullivan in Boston. Gary O'Sullivan taking a bit of a different route to the ring than the other fighters. It's clear that Murphy's Boxing looking to keep him the star attraction for the promotion that he has been. Gary O'Sullivan sporting a shamrock shaved into the back of his head. First time I saw him many years ago competing in the United States at the Dorchester Armory here in Boston, he had rainbow-colored hair. He's always been a man of impeccable hair. Has a John L. Sullivan type mustache as well. Some have said that he's a descendant of John L. Sullivan. I'll leave that to the genealogist, is that what the correct term would be, to find out if there's any truth to that. So both men had to travel fairly far to be here today. O'Sullivan from Cork, Ireland, Montes from Barranquilla, Colombia. The difference between the travel plans and how they went is that Gary O'Sullivan arrived on time. Montes was scheduled to fly in directly from Colombia to the United States yesterday and missed his flight and weighed in much later than all the other fighters, which is probably a disadvantage to him because he'd have to hang on to his weight and couldn't rehydrate till a later time as opposed to everyone else on the card. One thing I will say about Gary O'Sullivan is that in recent years he's been in some very entertaining fights. The atmosphere for his win last year in Guilford, New Hampshire was excellent, as some good work courtesy of Montes here in round 1. So round 1 concludes between Gary "Spike" O'Sullivan and Ronald Montes here at the House of Blues in Boston on St. Patrick's Day. No better time for an Irish boxer to compete, in my opinion, than on St. Patrick's Day here in Boston. Lots of Irish immigrants and descendants who are fight fans here in the Boston area. And tonight's show, promoted by Murphy's Boxing, headed up by Ken Casey, bass player and vocalist for the Dropkick Murphys, the most successful Irish-influenced punk band, I think, in the history of the genre. They may have actually invented the genre when you come to think of it. We talked about Spike O'Sullivan's record of 23-2 earlier, and his 2 losses coming at the highest level. You got Chris Eubank Jr., who stopped him in 2015, and he also lost in 2013 a unanimous decision to Billy Joe Saunders, who is now the WBO middleweight champion. Spike O'Sullivan, one time after a win in Melrose, Massachusetts over a journeyman fighter with an upside-down record named Larry Smith, called out Triple G, Gennady Golovkin, who actually fights tonight at Madison Square Garden against Danny Jacobs in a middleweight title defense. I just like the fact that there's a guy like Triple G who many feel is one of the most avoided fighters in boxing, Spike O'Sullivan calls him out. That's taking initiative right there. I like that. After he beat Larry Smith in that fight, Larry Smith gave a heartfelt retirement speech and was applauded by the crowd in Melrose, Massachusetts, only to return and fight a few months later. That'll elicit some chuckles up here, but it's absolutely 100% true. Referee Leo Gerstel says something to Montes, and before he can step in and say whatever he needed to say to him, I think O'Sullivan snuck in a left hand. Protect yourselves at all times, kids. Say something about Colombian fighters. There's been many of them over the years who have had raw skills and needed to be refined as boxers with limited success. But one thing that Colombian boxers always seem to have is the ability to really, really punch. Bradis Prescott, who handed Amir Khan his first loss, comes to mind. That was a crushing first-round KO that some have said is the biggest upset in the history of European boxing. Edison Miranda comes to mind, the former middleweight contender. Like I said, raw. Certainly not the most skilled boxer in the world, but if he hits you, it hurt. He had some crushing knockouts in his career. Probably his best against a guy named David Banks, who spent some time in the Contender. So he knocked him out in the third round on ESPN, and I don't think David Banks had any idea where he was. Jose Luis Hera was another Colombian fighter who was a big puncher. Scored some upset victories in the cruiserweight division years ago. Round 2 comes to a conclusion between Gary Spike O'Sullivan and Ronald Montes of Colombia. This event here at the House of Blues is really the culmination of two long-withstanding Boston traditions. On St. Patrick's Day, there's always a big fight card in Boston. Years ago, it was at the old Boston Garden. In recent years, it's been at places such as the House of Blues, here on Lansdowne Street. You take that tradition, you mix it in with another tradition that's been going on for the past 15 years or so, and that is the string of Dropkick Murphys performances around St. Patrick's Day in this area that year in, year out, always sell out. And the Dropkick Murphys will actually perform an acoustic set tonight as part of the festivities of this show. Looks like Montes is content to box on the outside, almost in retreat. And it's O'Sullivan stalking his opponent here in round 3. Still to come tonight in our main event, 10 rounds of junior middleweight action between Mark DeLuca, the unbeaten fighter of Whitman, Mass. At 17-0 with 11 knockouts as he takes on Travis Scott, 19-2 of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Round 3 concludes. Good opening 3 rounds for Gary Spike O'Sullivan of Cork, Ireland. There's a doctor coming in to the corner of Ronald Montes taking a look at him, and he's actually going to come through the ropes to take a look at Montes. Looks like Montes is in some pain in his corner, and he might not be able to answer the bell for round 4. And if that's the case, this could be a TKO win for Gary Spike O'Sullivan. Referee Leo Gerstel is asking the doc, can he continue? And it looks like he cannot. Not sure what the ailment is to Montes, but we're going to have a stoppage win for Gary Spike O'Sullivan as Montes unable to answer the bell for round number 4. And now the crowd realizes what the outcome is. They're happy for their man, Gary Spike O'Sullivan. I thought I saw someone indicate that it was an injury to the right arm or shoulder of Montes, but that is not confirmed. So Gary Spike O'Sullivan will improve his record to 24 wins against just 2 losses and now 16 wins by way of KO. Ronald Montes drops to 17 wins and 6 losses. Well, we've seen Gary Spike O'Sullivan since 2015 bounce back in an extended winning streak since his last loss to Chris Eubank Jr. It'll be interesting to see where and when Gary Spike O'Sullivan tries to step it up again and take a big fight. As we mentioned earlier, he's called out Triple G. That one probably unlikely to happen, though not completely out of the question at this moment. Perhaps a rematch with Billy Joe Saunders overseas. Maybe against a guy like Sergio the Latin Snake Mora, former world champion, season 1 winner of The Contender, who in recent years has been a mainstay on Premier Boxing Champions broadcasts.
Montes in the red corner, designed to the bell for round number 4. Therefore, your winner by TKO victory in round number 3, Gary Spike O'Sullivan.
So Ronald Montes can't come out for round number 4. Gary Spike O'Sullivan with the TKO victory on St. Patrick's Day weekend here in Boston.